I'm fine, Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Really good to be chatting with you today. I really wanted to ask you just a few general questions about Onyx Health. I know you're well known to some of our members already, you work with them, but perhaps if you could tell me a bit about the Onyx story for those members who don't know you.
Okay, well, Onyx Health is a marketing communications company. We're based up in Newcastle, and we specialise in supporting companies that have more possibly challenging budgets, if I'm being honest. We work with a lot of medical diagnostic, medical device companies, startup pharma companies, and life science companies. And we offer a whole package. I think we're not just an agency, we come very much from that commercialization of an initial product, and looking at the communications that's required in those very, very early startup days, right through to those growth phases. And we really stay with our clients long term because we become a real extension to their marketing arm.
Okay, that's really interesting to hear. I know I'm from a marketing background myself, and that relationship and building that relationship with a communications company is really important to get to know each other.
It is so important. And you know what? One of the things is, which we find is hugely beneficial, is because a lot of us all come from the Northeast, we are great communicators and we're really friendly. And there is a much more of a collaborative approach in the Northeast, regardless of what you do. You know, there's always, if we can't help somebody, we'll always find out somebody else who can and recommend them. So a lot of people come to us just even for a little bit of advice on how they can approach something or who they should approach as well.
Yeah, great. And what sort of challenges are companies coming to you with? What's their key concerns?
Well, I think at the moment it is about how they can continue their business based on, you know, the impact of COVID-19 long term. And I think the big thing at the moment is we all have to become very agile. We are not going to come out of this as we were before. It's not just going to be business as usual. So we are looking at different approaches we can take, because if the reps can't get into the hospital, and I appreciate service engineers have continued to go in throughout COVID, if trainers can't get in, how are you going to teach a customer how to use a product? So they're looking to us now for different ways of communicating with their customers and delivering messages to those customers.
Yeah, certainly that's something I've heard a lot from our members is the challenges that they face right now, but can foresee facing at least in the near term about accessing to hospitals and being able to talk to their customers and support their customers.
Well, if you think about it, so before COVID happened, we were already seeing this big decline in doctors going to congresses. And you were starting to see a shift in the if you were at a congress, there may have still been the same numbers there, but they weren't necessarily from the big five or the big European five, or they weren't necessarily from the US, where you know, these are really your big markets, and that's where you want your customers to be from. So we were seeing that happening. We were also seeing a number of hospital trusts really limit access for reps, and everybody was having to go through procurement. There's a number of groups now that are setting up to really help restrict us accessing hospitals. So we were having to look at this, and everybody was talking digitally, oh yeah, we might do something, but nobody was actually really doing anything. You know, we were dipping our toes in the water and, oh yes, well, I don't really understand that. I think what we've seen now is that recognition of the importance of digital really skyrocket, because it's going to be the way we have to communicate with people.
Yeah, certainly. It sounds like what we've seen in a few other areas with COVID, that something that was happening before COVID was really accelerated because of the impact of the pandemic. You mentioned there about some, other European countries and the US, etc. What's Onyx's footprint in terms of dealing with international clients, and do you see any big differences between dealing with the health service in France or Germany and that within the UK?
Yes, I think there are very subtle differences. I mean, a lot of it always comes down to funding. It always comes down to the money and the availability of the money. And I think where before the UK were always seemed to be the most cost conscious country. You see now, you talk to customers in France or in Germany, and they'll say, well, my finance department comes in, and if I am 2% over my budget this week, next week I have to save that money, and it's all very short-termist. And it'll be interesting to see if that has changed. So we saw in the UK where the government have just basically wiped off the NHS debt as such, and I'm not saying it's a spending spree, but I think that's taken a pressure off, and there could be more an ease up and of allowing that investment into capital projects that need to happen. It'll be interesting to see what the impact of that is when we start actually being able to sell to hospitals again. Across Europe, again, it's a similar situation.
Yeah, certainly that wiping off of the debt or conversion to a sort of public equity was, one of the reasons stated for that was to allow them to invest in capital projects. I don't know, it's something they were looking at again even before COVID, and it'll be interesting to see what the impact of COVID is on the longer term finances. But well, tell me about your team in Onyx. How many of you are there? What are your people like?
What people like? Well, there's 15 of us, and we're a real friendly bunch of people. They'll kill me if I didn't say that. We can offer you a really good night out in Newcastle, because that's what we're known for. But we're a multidisciplinary team. So we made up of people with PR, medical education backgrounds. We have graphic designers. We have a digital team as well. We have medical writers, PhDs as well, and some really just straightforward good content writers. So it's a real mix, because what we find is now clients don't want multiple agencies. They want one agency that can fit everything. We're fortunate as well that a number of our staff are one of our account directors is French, one of our PhDs is Spanish. And we also have a German-speaking person as well, so we're able to translate everything and talk to people in different countries. We also partner in the US with a company called Jeff Winton Associates. So we have a footprint over there, and Jeff and I have known each other for many, many years. He used to be my client. And we all know when you go over to the US, there's a different way of doing things. The terminology is slightly different, the design is slightly different, the regulations are slightly different. And while we can provide the strategy, what we felt is we couldn't provide the on-the-ground implementation. So we've partnered up with Jeff and his team to actually do that for us in the US as well. Across Europe, as soon as you get down to local level, everything has to be in own language. So we can do all the translations and things like that. But we tend then to pick up a consultant or somebody to work with us in those countries to actually do the implementation.
A real multicultural team there.
Yeah,
very idea of a combined Geordie and German accent.
There's some very interesting accents in our office. Mine's a very light Geordie accent.
I mean, it's great because obviously those raft of different backgrounds, different cultures, different experiences, something you can obviously bring to the client when you're looking at different and novel approaches. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. And what do you see as the most exciting opportunities, in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, both for you personally, but also for the health technology sector?
Well, I think, you know, we were having our own challenges in working out how on earth we our new model in terms of just our working life is going to be like going forward, because we know we can't go back to what we had. You know, we have to significantly increase our space if we have to all end up back in the office. So we're looking at a hybrid model. And then across all of that means what technology do we need to be, again, this agility I'm talking about. So, you know, when we went into COVID, most of the team just picked up their computer off their desk, put it in their car and went home. But now, if we're going to have half in the office, half not, and we move around a lot, we can't do that. So again, it's all the technology. How on earth do you do a conference call in an office environment as well? And so that's one of the things we're looking at about how we change as an organisation. But what we have been doing during the whole lockdown is looking at how we better communicate with customers using different environments. So we have partnered with a AI company, and we have created a interactive learning environment. And what this is, we're taking something that could look potentially like an exhibition stand, and any company can use this. The beauty of it is you are not restricted in space, so your exhibition stand could be as big as small as you want. You can have anything on there from your sales material, you can have or e-details, which we know doctors don't really, they'll look at, but they don't really engage truly with. What they look at is things that are entertaining, things that solve their problems. So that tends to be more the medical education piece. So you can have webinars, you can have podcasts, you can have your posters, your clinical papers. You can even hold virtual ad boards or advisory groups on their round tables, and it's all held in one central place as well. And then you can add, this can be used globally as well because it comes out of one country. So there is some challenges on the regulations, but we're working through those at the moment. And that's really what the whole team's been working on at the moment. And we've had some really interesting uptake on this, because I don't know whether you've seen, but a lot of congresses have said, we're going to go virtual. Our next congress is going to be virtual. And as a company, you can sponsor this. And what we'll do, you can put your website address on and a little bit about the company. And it's a very limited space where you could actually put your website or your hyperlink onto this, and then suddenly somebody is in your exhibition stand. So it's just more about bringing that to life. So it's replicating what you would do, but just in a digital environment. And we hope this will allow companies to reach far more customers.
Oh, that really sounds, very, very interesting. And I think we're all experiencing a new virtual way of working now. If we'd gone back 6 months, I'm sure we'd have been sat in an office somewhere filming this live, but instead we're
on Teams.
We're doing it separated by hundreds of miles.
Well, I think it's interesting because we all adapted. Like we had SharePoint before. We've always had it, and we had this thing called Teams on it. None of us ever used it, and somebody said, "Oh, that might be quite easy to use," but nobody ever did. We went into lockdown, and within 24 hours, we're all on Teams using it. We had a call, we did a webinar with a cytologist talking about how is cytology going to get back to normal post lockdown. And one of the things he said on the call was, we are very agile and very, we know how to use digital technology. Sometimes the industry doesn't think we do. And he said, we can learn online, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so we have to adapt what we're doing and produce some really good materials, visual materials that customers can use online. And I think that's the exciting thing. I think we'll move away from a lot of print, a lot of the standard traveling and stuff like that, to being much more agile. And also, the beauty is with the interactive learning environment is that you can have your medical information, your customer service, your sales team all linked into it as well. So they're able to interact face to face with customers. And I think that's what we've all learned to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's been on a very steep learning curve in terms of adapting to the crisis. Karen, it's been great talking to you. I wish we had a bit more time, but we will be catching up again soon for our virtual conference. So we can learn more then. But
and I look forward to participating in that. And I think we've got a great lineup of speakers. They're really good. This is going to be such an interesting meeting.
Yeah, great. Look forward to it. And thanks for your time, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye.